Yes.
Anthony, this next lesson we're going to talk about Messiah. That's a
Yes.
title.
Yes.
And so what does that really mean, Messiah? And what does commissioned
Good.
or being sent mean? And then if you could also talk a little bit about agency. People don't seem to
Yes.
understand that simple concept of God's representative.
That's right.
And so if you could address those, please.
Very good. The word Messiah is a Hebrew word. I'll say it to you. In Hebrew, Mashiach, you have to do the Johann Sebastian Bach CH at the end of that. Mashiach means somebody who is anointed with oil, somebody who's been specially touched by God and inspired by God. And I have to tell you right away that the kings of Israel were called messiahs. They were God's anointed. So it's not a unique title for Jesus. Even the apostles, or Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, I should say, the church, the fathers, the original fathers, they are described as being messiahs. I believe it's in Psalm 104. They're called messiahs. They're not God. It's a human title of somebody specially anointed, touched by God for a special mission that that person has been given. And so that's what Messiah means. Messiah is simply the English word for the Hebrew Mashiach. And now you'll like this too. He's called the Christ. That's the Greek word Christos, which means exactly the same as Messiah, somebody anointed by God for a special commission. And then you mentioned this interesting word, sent. Unfortunately, when people read their Bible and they read that Jesus was sent, they think, well, there you go. He must have been alive in heaven as non human. No, no, no. John the Baptist was sent too. All the prophets were sent. So you must learn this lesson, please, that you're not reading an American or British book when you're reading the Bible. There are ways of saying things in English, like I'm mad about my flat, which to me means I'm excited about my new apartment. In America, that would mean something quite different, misleading. So even among us English speakers, there's possible confusion. You simply learn this lesson that all the prophets were sent and Messiah was sent. John the Baptist was sent. That means he was commissioned, and that gives word it gives opportunity to speak of another beautiful Hebrew word called shaliach. Shaliach is simply a Hebrew word meaning sent, commissioned. Jesus was commissioned by God, and he becomes then God's unique agent. In the Jewish way of thinking, if you represent your father, or if you represent your boss, what you say reflects exactly what your boss says. You're the agent of your boss. You say what your boss says. You're a model, if you like, modeled upon your boss. Well, Jesus is called an apostle. People don't even know that. He's the apostle of our faith. He's the one sent, because that's what apostolos means, one sent, one commissioned, called a shaliach, one sent. And so Jesus keeps saying, particularly in the Gospel of John, listen, the words I'm speaking, he says, are not really my words at all. He even says, if you believe in me, you're not really believing in me. Wait a minute. Yes, you are. What he means is, he says it in the same sentence, if you believe in me, you're really believing in the one who commissioned me. That's the ultimate of what Jesus says. He's God's perfect shaliach agent. And so he speaks the words of God. He's so sinless that he never gets a word out of place. We, of course, being human, we make many mistakes. Jesus did not sin. He perfectly reflected the Father and is therefore God's commissioned shaliach or agent. Okay,
Exactly. Thank you, Anthony. Could we look at that sort of also as maybe power of attorney today? Somebody gives the right to
absolutely.
somebody else to represent them, to sign documents for them, to
Absolutely. I think that's
represent them.
exactly right. Bible is a legal book. Don't forget that the Bible is a legal book. And so many parallels are there between the legal system and any system, except that the Bible has God as the judge. God is the judge. You're not going to answer to your husband or wife or your brothers and sisters. You are going to answer to God and Jesus, who's at the right hand of the Father now. You're going to have to explain what you've been doing to them. And we know that God is a merciful judge. That's good. But we should live our lives moment by moment in view of that fact that we're going to be assessed according to what we do. That's what salvation is all about.
by his agent.
by
We'll
his
talk.
agent.
Yes,
And
we'll
that's a
talk a little
kindly
bit more
thing too,
about
isn't
that.
it?
Yeah.
Having human being as an agent. He understands what we're going through very much more perfectly than any other human being. He went through it all, and the church hated him. So don't be shocked if you lose a few friends if you embrace the truth. That's part of the quote game.
Well, and Jesus said, if they persecuted me, you think they aren't going to persecute you?
Exactly. That's a good text. You know your Bible well, Tracy, so keep chipping in these extra verses.
I had a good teacher.
Ah.